The following NitPix video is sponsored by Alliance, Heroes of the Spire. I've dedicated my life to the art of Netflix and chill. I pride myself on my ability to Netflix and chill in any place, at any time. I've done it on the train, on a plane, and on a boat. So you know that I know my way around this streaming site more than any other man. Now you, the humble viewer, can trust my word when I say I have discovered the worst Netflix original in the history of humanity. It's almost bitter poetry that this show would have two of my deepest fears, Ashton Kutcher and ranch life. That's right, I'm talking about the Netflix original sitcom known simply as The Ranch. The Ranch is a 4-part series made exclusively for Netflix. It's co-created by the man who brought you such gems as 2.5 Men. So you can already gather the level of quality we're working with here. But 4 parts? That can't be too bad. Well, by 4 parts I mean 40 fucking episodes, and trust me, I really tried as an online critic and as a content creator to watch all of them. But it just didn't work out for me. My eyes kept drifting away, my attention kept shifting. I needed something, anything to help me escape from this farm-shaped prison. That's when it came to me, like a glorious beacon of light on my oblong phone screen. Alliance, Heroes of the Spire. It's a mobile game that you RPG players have just gotta have. Guys, there's over 10,000 combinations and 400 unique heroes. There are also different game modes. There's real-time PvP, giant bosses, massive guilds, and nation battles. So you can imagine my joy when they offered me this sponsorship and therefore offered the NitPix army 50,000 gold and 50 gems for free. I can talk about this game for hours, but it's just better you go and see it for yourself. Download Alliance now, only through my links below. This isn't going to be one of those videos in which I show you a piece of media that's so hilariously bad that we all have a good chuckle at its expense together. This is not a cool cat saves the kids situation, and it certainly isn't The Room. This show is just bad, in the sense that one really can't get any enjoyment out of it. The experience of watching The Ranch is one of numbness. You don't feel anything, you just sit there detached from everything around you. Your body starts to feel like a meaningless flesh sack of guts, blood and bile, only occasionally gaining any form of consciousness when the canned laughter forces you to digest yet another unfunny and unoriginal joke about Obama or cows.
How's it going with your dad?
Remember how he reacted when Obama got elected? It was worse than that.
The Ranch follows the Bennetts, a dysfunctional family who live on a ranch. We have 4 main characters in here. The first is Colt, who is like this.
Oh no.
Then we have Bo, the dad, who is like this.
You win, Dale. I'll buy your damn drugs if you think it'll save my fucking calf.
Then we have Rooster, Colt's older brother, who's like this.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna tell this chick I got a 10-inch dong and live in a mansion.
And then finally we have Maggie, the mother, who's like this.
Bo, I love you. I'm just not sure that I can live with you.
If you wanted more depth on these characters, so did I. But that isn't what we get. Instead, we get these lovely little unchallenging character stereotypes. Colt is the charming, flirty meathead. Rooster is the creepy, pervy younger brother, who also may be a creepy pervert in real life. Bo is the emotionally distant Republican father, and Maggie is the liberal mother who gives advice and smokes weed. You better get used to those characters, because everything in The Ranch revolves around them, and they never change and they never grow, and that's what you have for 40 episodes. Structurally, it's slightly different from a standard sitcom. Each episode ends in a cliffhanger, and then the next episode continues straight after the last one. I use the word cliffhanger very loosely. We're not watching all my circuits here.
Darling, I'm willing to convert.
In The Ranch, any minor development is framed as a cliffhanger. Rooster's offered a job, fade to black. Rooster gets fired from that job, fade to black. Colt's father says he's thinking about maybe potentially selling the ranch, fade to black. This means each episode of The Ranch focuses entirely on what was revealed in the last episode's cliffhanger. and you can only expect a character to have any realization or dramatic moment at the end of each episode, because they've got to save it for the cliffhanger. Just to give you an example, in one episode, Colt is about to propose to his high school sweetheart, but just as he is about to go, he's confronted with his ex-girlfriend, who tells him that she's pregnant. This is the season 1 finale. The first episode of season 2 just gives us Colt stressing about the pregnancy, constantly questioning what he should do about it, and trying to deal with it for an entire 30 minutes until she tells him that she's getting an abortion. The next episode is them going back and forth on her getting an abortion until she decides to keep the baby, and then his actual girlfriend Abby comes home, where the episode ends with him telling her about the pregnancy and her getting mad. A whole hour and a half, 3 episodes, 3 actual story beats that create tension, and all of them at the end of each episode. The cliffhangers give the false impression that it will create some sort of change for the world and characters, but it never does. It's always the same ranch. There are no stakes, and everyone's always in a constant state of being fine. The mother character runs away for 3 episodes. She comes back, they have a discussion about it, but nothing really changes. The dynamics between the characters are still functioning the same, and ultimately it just all feels pointless. The only unique selling point to the ranch, much like a lot of sitcoms, is the setting. The ranch setting could have potentially offered a number of fairly interesting comedy setups. However, due to unambitious writing and the unoriginal cookie-cutter nature of the characters, the ranch becomes more of a backdrop for really overplayed sitcom stories that you've seen time and time again. There's never an episode about one of them having to put an animal to sleep, or having to coach a bull to make love to the other lady bulls, or any kind of ranch-based plot lines. I mean, I'm not a rancher, but those are 2 pretty solid suggestions there. It's only ever about who they're fucking, who they want to fuck, or who they have previously fucked. I watched this show to get a social realism view of blue-collar American Republicans who work on ranches, and instead I get this! There's one episode where they inseminate a cow, but the focus of the plot isn't on that. It's just a thing they're doing in the scene. Similar to a scene in a bar or in front of a TV, it's just a backdrop. They talk a lot about ranch-related things, but it's almost never shown. I guess it would have been hard to get animals into a live studio, which I think is a clear indicator that making a ranch-based sitcom is actually a bit of a shit idea. Seriously, when you can't even utilise your setting to its full potential, you know you fucked up. Camera work. Let's talk about the camera work, because predictably, it's as static as my grandma, and she's in a coma. But luckily, I've been reading her this 41-page fan script of the ranch every day so that she never wakes up. What you can generally hope for is locked-off shots of people talking. Each shot functions to get maximum coverage. Fuck intelligent framing. Fuck emotive lighting. Fuck artistry in general. We've got to film 3 whole episodes in one day! The most exciting the camera work gets is in the intro, in which it keeps fading into multiple shots of what looks like stock farm footage with a grey filter over it. That's as exciting as it gets. But strangely, believe it or not, the ranch actually got an Emmy for outstanding cinematography for a multi-camera series. That's right, people. This series has outstanding cinematography, so maybe the bar is really low. Or maybe there's something I'm missing. Either way, I feel like my channel should get this Emmy next year, so here's my application for the award.
Action. Where's my Emmy?
Even more perplexing is how this show genuinely has an existing and fairly avid fan base. I wasn't joking about the fan script, it's actually real. And I wasn't joking about my grandmother either, that inheritance is mine. My favourite thing about The Ranch is following the fan base, imagining the type of people who love this show, who consider this show their favourite. There are theories and discussions and predictions for the upcoming season 3. To these people, a sitcom about the ranch is met with the same enthusiasm as Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. Through my research, I've noted a split among the ranchers. Danny Masterson, who plays Rooster, is in the middle of rape allegations and has been subsequently written out of season 3 of The Ranch. This has led to a lot of the fan base screaming, "No Rooster, no ranch!" at any opportunity they can find. These fans have been fighting tooth and nail to get him back on the show, and honestly, I'm with them.
I had some bad news the other day about my favourite character from the ranch leaving the show. His name was Rooster, and now I have to scream. No Rooster, no ranch! Danny Masterson didn't commit that crime! No Rooster, no ranch! They're just allegations, man! Bring back Rooster.
Now you're probably thinking, whoa, NitPix, you're just hating on this show because it's a sitcom. The Ranch is just as bad as any other sitcom. You just wanted an excuse to sing about Rooster. That's where you're wrong. I don't need an excuse to sing about Rooster. Situational comedy, or the sitcom, has been present in television for exactly 100 years. You've seen them, your mum's seen them, and your grandma was probably in one. Go and ask her. You never know what these cheeky grannies get up to. Apart from being in comas. My point is that this genre is more oversaturated than video essays, and we all grew out of it approximately 5 years ago when the last episode of How I Met Your Mother finally fucking ended. But even then, the interest in sitcoms was nowhere near the level it was in the 90s, when we had Friends mania. Friends was a show that managed to perfect the conventional sitcom. The characters, although initially being quite exaggerated and relying heavily on standard tropes, were able to develop throughout the show, becoming richer through their experiences. The plot was pacey and consistent. With every episode, there was always an element that challenged and changed the characters and their relationship in large or small ways. The writing for its time was fresh and tasty. Of course, when held up to other, more ambitious projects, it's not amazing, but for what it is, as a sitcom, it understood the medium and took full advantage of everything the style of television invited. It made the most out of its simple format, and it became a hit. But after Friends, good writers and producers understood that if you were to make another sitcom, you can't just make the same shit and put a slightly different bow on it. They knew you need to change something within the format. Sitcoms started adapting to be more in line with a modern audience, with shows like Malcolm in the Middle and The Simpsons. They took the concept of the traditional family comedy and framed it in a new way, subverting the traditional tropes from the 80s and tackling more modern issues. There's a real ambition to tell stories in engaging in new ways, with more sitcoms removing the laughter track, using single camera techniques, and filming in real locations. The production quality and the level of comedy could be evolved to be more dynamic and layered. As well as this, writers began to satirize the sitcom format itself, with shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which comments on how amoral and unrealistic common TV characters are presented. It invites viewers to identify with completely morally reprehensible characters and offers insight into the worst views and belief of American culture, whilst also creating hilarious scenarios. Even less critically acclaimed sitcoms such as Scrubs or Big Bang Theory still try to develop traditional sitcom conventions in order to offer their viewers something unique. Scrubs uses inner monologue as a way of getting inside JD's head, allowing us to experience dramatic tension in a more personal and engaging way. Big Bang Theory offers a large number of new perspectives and derives commentary from social awkwardness and the idea of popularity, as well as parodying nerd culture in a way that normies can handle. Now, when you frame sitcoms in this space and see and acknowledge the development of the genre, it becomes clear how deeply of a failure The Ranch truly is. When putting it beside all these other projects, you realise it offers nothing of value at all. The only thing The Ranch adds to the sitcom format is detrimental to the show. Continuing each episode from the one before it makes the show feel drawn out and incredibly slow. In Friends, months will pass between episodes, which means we only tune into their lives when there's something interesting happening among the characters. Characters arguing or breaking up or losing their jobs feel natural and less forced, because it happens to most of us every few months or so. In The Ranch, everyone seems so utterly fickle. Characters change their mind every other day. The show unfolds in a microcosmic way. There's no breathing room for the characters, and watching it feels like you're trapped under its uncharismatic, bulbous weight, unable to breathe, move, or think because of the lack of oxygen going into your brain. Even when you compare it to the bottom barrel shit like 2.5 Men, it's trash, but at least it had a weird and zany setup, and it's not set on a fucking ranch, so it's got that advantage. But also, 2.5 Men started in 2003. Friends was still on at that time. The Ranch, on the other hand, came out less than 2 years ago. It's a 2016 show regurgitating setups and jokes that got old in 2006, and it's not even doing it with enthusiasm or awareness, it's just doing them to the point where it almost feels insulting. Except this time, we can see these jokes done by crusty farm people and an aged, flabby Ashton Kutcher who's still trying to convince us he's a sex icon. Back in the day, when something was a Netflix original, it used to act as a seal of quality. It was usually something out of the norm. You didn't always know what you were getting into, but you knew it would be at least interesting, and oftentimes you would find yourself pleasantly surprised. It felt like you were constantly finding little hidden gems, but as it got bigger and more popular, the Netflix original stamp has meant less and less, with the quality getting worse and worse. But you'd hope that even at its worst, there might be at least something of value. But it's all led to this, The Ranch. A show that exists in the same space as Breaking Bad or Rick and Morty and Stranger Things. Ambitious projects with intention, yet The Ranch has nothing. It can't even offer entertainment through imagination. Projects that are so bad they're good at least have a sliver of artistic intention. You can see that people tried. With The Ranch, it's transparent. You can't even watch it and wonder why they made certain decisions or be perplexed as to what they were thinking. You can completely see through the creation process of this show, and straight away you can understand that these people have just created something as low effort as possible in order to cash in on a bunch of easy checks, which I find absolutely disgusting, by the way. I myself would never make a video in order to cash in on an easy check. With The Ranch, you're not given anything of value back for your time. I challenge you, I sincerely dare you to try and sit through the first 20 episodes of The Ranch and give it your full attention, because I did that to both seasons, and I can tell you, I'm genuinely bitter about it. I could have done anything with my weekend, and instead I watched The Ranch for 2 entire days, and all I did was take it in. I'm so pissed off that an actual human being watched The Ranch and said, "Yep, that's great. Greenlight it, make 60 episodes of this, put that out for human consumption," because Netflix know that this show gives us nothing. They're not idiots or delusional, they know how meaningless this project is. All it is a way to waste the precious time that we have to live on this earth. I can say with confidence that this is the absolute worst Netflix original because it gives you nothing, because no effort was put into it. And the simple fact that it was shat out into existence in 2016 with 20 more episodes due to come out this year is an insult to how the television format has progressed. Fuck this show, and fuck me for watching it, I guess. But please bring back Rooster. No Rooster, no ranch. No Rooster, no ranch. No Rooster, no ranch. But what do you think of the current state of Netflix? Is there a show on Netflix that's potentially worse than The Ranch? Let me know down below. Also, make sure to subscribe to this video if you enjoyed it. And I'd like to give a big thank you to my patrons, especially Joel Hammond, Crude Comedy, Babulski, Quack, Murabiko, Chip Flake, Katie, Andrew Maring, I Seen That, and Cameron Ceniceros. Everyone else, thank you also. Please do consider becoming a patron. Please do consider following me on Twitter. Also, put into consideration the idea of subscribing to my non-controversial second channel. They get to kiss, he kisses the girl at the end.
But they're still perpetrating the myth of anal pussy juice, which I really disagree with.
Yes, no.
Anal pussy juice. Anal pussy juice. It's disgusting. It's disgusting and repulsive. It's not a real thing.
Which is making quality content more frequently than on my main channel. Also, I've made a Discord server with some lovely people in it who posting quality ranch memes. So thanks to my Discords for doing that. And also, that's it. I'm gonna stop barraging you guys with I'm sick of these outros where I just yell at links and things for you to check out. Like only 20% of you, maybe even less than that, even watch this far. So you know, it doesn't have to be so official. You know, I'm not like the other teachers. Like, I'm more smooth. Like, I'm the kind of guy to lie back, put my feet on the desk, and just go, you know what? Like, if you've got problems, you can chat to me. So yeah, next video sometime soon. Bye.